This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jambo Jambo and welcome to the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have a very beautiful sunrise. Look at that. My name is Tim and welcome aboard to your very own safari live from the African wilderness. Jambo Jambo and a warm welcome to you here in the Masai Mara of Kenya. A very nice, beautiful sunrise this morning. My name is Tim and behind camera we have Big Jim. Nice weather, about 16 degrees Celsius, 61 degrees Fahrenheit. This spot here we are is the very spot that we always watch elephants drinking from this small water hole. Very nice morning. Please send us your comments and questions at #wildearth, or kids questions at wildearth.tv, in the YouTube comment section at FC. Send us your comments at our website wildearth.tv, and we're always ready to answer them for you. The Untitled Chapter is super melodious this morning. Armando, what a beautiful landscape. Magical. Imagine waking up to this each and every morning.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to And Beyond Ngala. We are hot on the tracks of a pride of lions. We actually heard them calling from camp this morning, and we've heard some vervet monkeys alarm calling, some impalas alarm calling. So we're taking a slow drive through the river. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide today at And Beyond Ngala. On the camera we have Owen, and hopefully we get to find a pride of lions for you this morning. So while we're taking this nice slow drive, we're looking out for any of those animals we heard alarm calling to see if they might be looking in a particular direction. We know that there's a nice big clearing in here, so it's very likely that that's where they slept and that might be where they're calling from. So what we're doing at the moment is we're looking for those flicking tails of lions, maybe ears moving, or those impalas standing dead straight looking in a particular direction. So we know that the lions are on the move this morning. We've heard them getting closer and closer. So we're hoping to find them where they're still moving around. We're very close to the riverbed. It's just on our left-hand side. So we're hoping that they've come up through the riverbed onto this section. So I absolutely love a cat search in the mornings, especially when you've heard them and you're trying to figure out where they are. It's always a really fun challenge. There's an impala on the right-hand side, but it's running into the thicket. So it's not standing and alarming at anything. So we're paying really close attention to all the small things this morning. I think what we're actually going to do is we're going to stop up ahead here and just listen to hear if we hear any more alarm calling or maybe hear any of the pride members. Even birds alarm calling. You can hear a woodpecker, a Verreaux's eagle owl in the distance. Alright, so I think we're going to carry on taking a slow drive to see what we can find. Hopefully we find those lions for you this morning.
Good morning and welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. Another beautiful morning here at the Kalahari. Look at that sky. My name is OBAKENG and behind the camera here we've got Dave. Our temperature today is about 21 degrees and it's a very pleasant morning. Not too much wind. Bright blue skies, sun is just coming out, and a very good blossom here of the three thorn. Look at those beautiful flowers. A very interesting little shrub where they used to actually use it as a whisk when making beer, the traditional beer that they would make from the raisin bush. So because it has little tiny thorns, they would whisk those little berries with it, and it would puncture the berries, and the way it punches the berries actually enticed the fermentation of those berries, and that's how they actually made the local beer. But look at those little leaves also coming out. Everything's starting to shoot. Insects are already busy at it, also doing the pollination there. So quite a very busy little shrub there. Very beautiful flowers. You'll see on this one the flowers are white, but as we drive along you'll see there's some flowers that are actually turn pink with maturity. Beautiful little shrub there. Very beautiful flowers, Julie, indeed. Everything is going to start blossoming now. We've been getting a bit of moisture every now and then. And also in the morning, condensation is a little bit high at the moment. So everything is starting to shoot. And every day is going to be more and more of these where we start finding shrubs going green, flowers shooting here, and so on. And we'll take you through it day by day. Showing you the different developments of the Kalahari. The other day we were speaking about the ground lily, and just before that it was the black thorns doing the magical pollination there. Jennifer, do the flowers smell good? They don't really have a pungent smell, but if you bring them very close to your nose, you'll get a little bit of the pollen, which gives off a bit of a sweet smell, but it's not that you'll smell it from afar or when you walk in the bushes or in the cluster of the tree thorn shrubs that you'd actually be able to pick it in a distance. No, but if you really bring your nose very close to them, you'll definitely get that sweet smell of a flower. So yes, they do smell, they do have a pleasant smell, but it's not really pungent in the sense that it flourishes. I've heard some of the chefs actually trying to figure out if they can actually use it for any of their dishes. So that would be an interesting thing to see if they come right with that one. Obviously here at Tswalu promoting using everything that is local. So good luck to the chefs on that one. Folks, I think we're going to continue moving. The plan is to see if we can find cats this morning. Something like a lion, maybe cheetah. So let's be on our merry way. While we do that, I'm going to be sending you off to another beautiful location in Africa.
Jumbo Jumbo everyone, welcome to my corner of the wilderness. It's a beautiful morning, as you can see. That's a balanitis. Sorry, this one is a Boskia coriacea tree. And look at the light that we have. Looks like it's going to be a very hot day here in the Masai Mara, in my corner of the world. And, well, Jumbo, my name is Isaac, and on camera I have Bungay. And our mission this morning is to find some cats. We haven't seen the big males yet, and hopefully we can see them today. Apart from that, I know we'll have lots of other things to show you, but our first big animal of the day is this lone bull elephant, who looks to be very comfortable by himself, and this is part of their life. There is a stage from, childhood to adulthood where they have to spend a lot of time by themselves. I would estimate he's a good between 15 and 25. And at this stage, they're usually immune to most, predators, including man, and big enough to be able to be by themselves. They spend another maybe around 5 years. He's going to spend another 5 years before he gets to around 30 when he's ready to mate. To be accepted by a female in elephant world, you have to be very big, because they want to have the best gene, and the best genes are usually strong, tough, and big. and that's why they last that long before reaching maturity. We have no shortage of these big bulls here in the Masai Mara. We've been seeing quite some new ones that are roaming freely out and about in this beautiful wilderness. Well, you can see we have a few more coming off to the right there. It looks like he's going to join them for another morning of grazing. Well, I'm going to continue on in search of my cats before it warms up, and while I do that, let's take you to another live location.
Welcome back. We just had to move a little bit from where we began the show, because we saw this lioness waking up and walking just to where she just lay down on the grass there, and to the left or to the right of where she's sleeping, there's another lioness. Over in the distance, there's some zebras, and I'm sure that is what they're looking at. These two lionesses are the same ones that we saw yesterday, so they've not moved at all from this spot where they were yesterday. Seems like they tried finding some food but missed out. Now it's time to just warm up before they start the activity. .16 degrees temperature is not very, very warm for these two lionesses. And I'm sure when it warms up, maybe they might try and move place. Or if not, they can be still at the same spot, because you saw yesterday what happened. The problem is one zebra is actually watching them, and they're a long distance away. So to approach that, she has to be very, very careful. She has to do her stalking game. She has to put her experience in practice. She looks like she's thinking of making a move. She's either thinking of how to intercept them, maybe walk in front of them, because they are long distance away, so there's some scrub bushes from where she's looking, so she might think of maybe heading to those bushes and take cover to approach them. You never know what's in the lion's mind. You can see from that tree just left to the screen, you can see a bit of movement, and those are the zebras. They're quite a distance away from these lions, so it will be actually a tough job for these lions to try and get there, but lions are super experienced, so let's see what will happen. Sometimes they can ignore if it's too far for them, or sometimes they can try and intercept by walking towards a bush, hoping that the zebras or whatever prey they have an eye on will get closer to that bush where they are. Koki francolin calling. They're always so melodious in the morning. What other predators will take on a lion? Lions are the apex predator, so at this size, at this age, nothing will take on a lion. But I'll say the predators that will take on a lion is when they're very small, the tiny cubs will fall prey to hyenas, leopard, and sometimes even if a cheetah comes across cubs, they'll definitely kill them. And it's not only because they want to take them for food, it's to wipe out competition, because if there's more lions, so the hyena, the leopard, or the cheetah will feel threatened because there's actually competition for food. So the apex predator, they don't have actual predators. The second lioness is up, and I'm sure they might be thinking of heading towards those zebras. So let's wait here and see what will happen as I take you over to another live location.
Guys, look at what we found. Yesterday, these guys made us work. And just as the show ended, we were hot on their heels, and today I started just where we left, and here we have them. It's the cheetahs just behind the bush. I'm gonna try reposition and view them. What a beautiful find. There we are. Look at that. Bit of smelling there, maybe marking. Let's see. Yep. Bit of a squirt, marking. These are the two boys, the two dominant boys that we saw the other day interacting with the mother and two. So it looks like they're on the patrol this morning. But look at that elegant walk. It's as if they're bragging when they walk. I like that. On a mission. Obviously just had a bit of drinking, and they'll be on the boundaries of their territory now. Let's see where they take us. I'm going to keep following and just stay behind them. It doesn't really look like they are interested in anything else than actually patrolling. So let's see where they really head to. Renee, I like cheetahs walk. I always say it looks like they're bragging. Yeah, it looks like they're walking on high heels. It looks like there's some swag to it, if I can call it that. Excuse my language there, but it is a bit of a, we're proud of ourselves and we know what we're doing kind of a walk. So, I mean, look at that. Seems like they just got audio of something. That was a quick turn right there. Look at those eyes, bright orange. I mean, you can imagine with these cats, they won't have a lot of color receptors in their eyes. So hence their eyes is just like one color like that. They don't really need to have color receptors in their eyes, being meat eaters. Cheryl, how old do cheetahs live up to in the wild? It will vary. You're looking at a period between, I would say, 10 and 12 years. There are challenges that they face. Competition with other cheetahs, competition with hyenas, competition with bigger cats like lions and so on. So that would have an impact on how long they do live. They can live a little bit longer than that, but if there's no competition of such sort in a case. So it will vary from place to place with regards to how much of a competition they have and the density of that competition. So roughly we would put it in the bracket of between 10 and 12 years. So yeah, let me not let them go too far into the gap before we lose them. So I'm going to keep moving and just keep track of them. While we still trying to reposition and keep track with these guys, I'll send you off to another beautiful location in Africa.
Cheetahs will always fascinate me. Here in the Mara, I've always been trying to find some cheetahs, and my mission this morning is to at least come across one cheetah. Now, our lions are back on flat. The zebras are walking too fast for them, and I think before they intercept them, it will be a long way down. Sometimes lions cannot really pursue prey if they are in a long distance and they're walking so fast. So they always would like to follow prey that is maybe grazing, that is easy to locate and to intercept, take it down. Or maybe if it's in a very big herd, that is easy for them to isolate one. But this is like just about 4-5 zebras, and they seem like they're heading off towards the escarpment to join the rest of the herd that have been moving and walking away to Tanzania. I think it's going to be another quiet day for these lions, unless if something else happens and prey comes this way. But because will be some zebras out of this place now, what happens? These lions will take on warthogs. They specialize in taking down warthogs, especially when dry times come in and we have less prey in this area. Sometimes they can even dig the warthog burrows to get them out. It's a tough job because warthogs are very, very tough. So we just leave them sleeping and maybe go find something else.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome on board. We're sitting here in Juma Private Game Reserve, as always, in the Mulwati, saying good morning to Mrs. Wig and Olivia. I was hoping to catch Olivia on her own, but sadly that's not going to happen. So good morning to you all. My name is Lauren and I do have Niels on camera today. And we've already checked the hyena den. Yes, that's how I feel about that. I am convinced we're just going too late. 5:30 is too late for the hyena den now. All activity has sort of vanished. And I also think that the mums, Heart, Corky and Ribbon, are just really busy right now. It's just summer. It's feasting time for the predators. So they themselves are also not spending too much time at the den, which is really disappointing. But I did check. And then, of course, on my agenda is always to come and check for Olivia. Now, it was quite chilly this morning. I mean, well, chilly is probably not the right word, but there was a nip in the air for summertime. So I think that's why Olivia is tucked deep beneath Mum's breast. But last night, we got very, very lucky to find a chick on his own. Or was it the night before? Possibly the night before. And that means that Mum is spending less and less time, which is a little bit of an advantage to us. Because, of course, we want to see Olivia. We want to see her develop and see her grow. Oh. Good morning, Fluffball. So there was leopard tracks not too far away from us, so we are going to leave our little owls and follow up on a leopard.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. We are having an incredibly lucky morning here. We've just found the 2 Ross males. We heard those impalas alarm calling, came into the clearing on the other side of those thickets, and we found these 2 very full-bellied Ross males walking along and scent marking. And it's been incredible to watch them walking because they tend to walk side by side so that they're actually touching while they walk. And you'll see the lighter one, which is the one on the right, will walk a little bit in front sometimes and scent mark. Then the more dominant one, which is actually the dark-maned one on the left, he goes and follows. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to try and stick with them while they're walking because we think they might be looking for the rest of the pride. So we're going to be following them. And they've got incredibly full bellies. It looks like one of them is lying down. So we're going to go around to the front of them. And it's actually incredible because we saw the one Ross male on his own yesterday. And now we get to see both of them together, the more and the less dominant. And when you see them together, it's quite easy to see how they might have taken over this pride. All right, so we're going to stop here in this stunning clearing and have them walking almost towards us. Alright, so you can see they're actually coming up on our left here. And you can see how muscular his shoulders are as he's moving. And they're definitely on the scent of something. Both of them keep putting their heads down to sniff, and now you can see he's picked it up and he's looking around. They're definitely intent on something. I don't know whether it's maybe a smell of a hyena, could even be a smell of the pride, or even just checking that there's no other male lions around. So this is the blonder of the 2, the pale-maned lion, and he's the less dominant. Lauren, the Ross males are around 8 years old, just over 8 years old. We actually first met them about 2.5 years ago when we estimated they were between 5 and 6. So they're around 8 now. They're in their prime, and within the next probably 2 years they might be overthrown from dominance over the Birmingham Pride. But it's incredible to think that these 2 are the fathers of those white lion cubs. He's going back towards his brother. 250, they certainly are impressive, especially when you see them like this, walking, scent marking, those muscles just glowing in this light. And it's actually been such an incredible search this morning because it started with us using all of our different senses. We were listening, we were looking, we were even trying to work out, okay, so if we've heard them there and they've come closer, where's the best place to find them? And it's just such an impressive search when you do it that way around. I'm going to move a little bit forward for you. And there you can actually see both of them. So the less dominant one standing on the right, and the more dominant one is actually in the shade of the tree on the left. Oh, look at that. I don't know if you can see the steam as he's breathing out. Can you see that? You can see it's a nice crisp morning because it's actually steaming as his hot breath comes out. And there's the more dominant on the left. So he's got quite a scarred face. And it's very interesting to see how the dynamic has changed between the two of them. They've overthrown each other a few times now for dominance over the females. And that's quite common with male lions. You know, even if they are brothers, when they take over a pride, there's still competition to see who mates with the females and fathers all the cubs. So even amongst themselves, they might fight if a female's in heat, and we've actually been seeing that for the last 2 weeks or so. These two have been very protective of one particular female. Especially this one that we're looking at now. He's been incredibly protective and doesn't want the other males coming close to that female. But I don't think they're ready to settle down yet. It looks like they are actually thinking about where to go next, because the dominant one's lying down, I think because he's got a fuller belly, so he's a bit tired. And the less dominant, or the blonder one, is still walking around looking for things to do. Places to go. Nathan, that's a brilliant question. They actually might start doing that now, where they clean each other. Oh, listen to those noises. So what they would normally do is they would groom each other by licking each other on the face. And when cubs are quite young, the mothers will clean their whole bodies. But it's also, it's also a bonding exercise for them. So when they rub heads like that, when they greet each other and groom each other, it's a way to increase the strength of those social bonds that they have with each other. It's how they get each other's scent and how they know that that bond is still strong. Their tongue is incredibly rough. It looks like it's got little hooks or barbs on it. And so when they lick each other, it actually pulls all of the dirt out of the fur. Gives them a nice good clean. The blonder one is definitely more unsettled today. He's a bit more active. And he's definitely smelling something. You can see how he's walking with his head downwards. And then he'll look up and look around. And then he'll bend down again to smell. There you can see he's got a bit of a scent again. He keeps putting his head down. I think they're looking for the rest of the pride. How stunning is he in that light? So let's just watch them for a minute and hear the sounds around us. Robert, this male lion would weigh probably around 250 kilograms at his heaviest. So they're quite a bit heavier than the lionesses. I think he weighs a bit less than his brother as well. His brother's a little bit bigger than him. But on average, a male lion would weigh around 250 to 260 kilograms. A lioness, though, maybe only up to about 150. think the Birmingham lionesses, though, might be quite a bit heavier. They are incredibly big. We're actually having a dominance display here. Have a look. So he's actually dominating over the darker male, which is the more dominant one. He climbed onto his back as though he was going to mate with him, just to give a bit of a dominance display. Oh, big belly up. So you can actually tell based on how much bigger the one lying down stomach is that he is the more dominant one, because he would have eaten first and he would have eaten more than the other male. It's possibly also why the other male was on his own yesterday, because with that competition over food he might have eaten and then actually been chased off by this lying down on the left one, the dark mane. And I think that's also why he's so much lazier, because he has such a big stomach, like the blonde one that we saw last night. So now that he's digested a bit more, the blonder male is actually going to be a bit more active today. How incredibly lucky are we to be sitting here with both Ross males, and especially having found them the way that we did, using impalas and vervet monkeys, using them roaring as well, all the little signs, some tracks on the road. It's an incredible search. Nice and peaceful for them this morning. We might not be able to hear it, but they might actually be able to hear the rest of the pride. So we're just going to listen and hear if there's anything else. He's doing the same thing, moving his ear while he's listening. Jenny, I couldn't agree with you more. This is an absolutely incredible sighting, and definitely one of the best ways that you could ever start a morning, with a search like this, and then finding them and actually being able to follow them while they move and scent mark and rub heads. And now they're starting to settle as it's getting a bit warmer. The size of that darker maned lion's paws. Glowing in the light there, you can actually see they've got a bit of a silhouette on them. So his paws, to give you an idea, would be almost the size of the inside of a dinner plate. So bigger than my hand, much bigger. But I think what we're going to do, we're going to stay with them and see what happens. That blonder one still looks very alert. And hopefully they can maybe lead us to the rest of the Birmingham Pride.
Well, from male lions to hippo, and he has paused to try and listen. I think he had the vehicle parked. He's not sure exactly where it's positioned, so he is either using his eyesight or ears to try and locate me. This is the hippopotamus, second largest mammal, on land. See, in proportion to the body, the legs looks very short, but they have very thick bone and very, very strong. You can see its mouth clearly. It's a hard pad, flat hard pad, capable of plucking or pulling grass off the ground because they are pure grazers. Of course, while feeding on the grass, they do feed on small insects and shrubs and even fruits, but it doesn't affect them. Look at the nose, the eyes and the ears, proportion to the body, and on looking at, comparing it to other animals, you'll tell that they're on top of the head. Yeah, an adaptability that they've had to be able to live in water. They don't need to lift the whole head to listen, to look, or to smell. I think he has picked me now. He knows where I am. I don't know what he's gonna do. You can tell the sun is already affecting him, starting to sweat. And he's trying to get back to the water so that he doesn't get sunburn. They do wander out of water and up to around 7 kilometers in cases of drought, but over here only 1 kilometer is enough. There is plenty of grass. They usually have a territory in males where they will defecate, and using their fan-like tail, they'll spread the droppings, mixing them with the urine, and that is to mark their territory, telling other intruders or other males that this area belongs to me. It's always nice to see hippos out of water like this, because most of the time you see them in the water and the only part you see is the top of the head and the back. So this is pure luck to see that. Also there in attendance is Topi. You can see it at the back there, and a few birds. We're very close to the Mara River, and it's always guaranteed that if you see a hippo out of water, the water is, out of water, the river or Zay Jumbo, could this hippo charge? Yes, it can, but I have positioned myself in a very good spot where I can get away, and also I have given him enough distance so he doesn't have any reason to be angry with me. He came out of water. I think there's a pod to the right that he could have gone if he wanted to, so he's not under any threat to come for me. He's going to the deeper water in the Mara River, and that's how they walk. But don't let anything deceive you that they are slow or lazy. These guys can run, and can run very, very fast. Well, he's gonna come out into the open quite soon, but I'm gonna leave you with that sight as we take you to the next live location.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to and Beyond Pindler Private Game Reserve. We found a mother cheetah with 2 cubs this morning, and we are absolutely over the moon. My name is Ross, and behind the camera today is Craig. And as I said, we are coming to you today live from and Beyond Pindler Private Game Reserve. And look at these cubs playing with each other, wrestling. Yes. Oh my word. Do you hear the noises they're making? They're fighting very hard. And they are just playing. And this exercise and these tackling and grappling techniques that they're using now are so good for them to learn. because although they'll are still with their mother, one day they'll have to use these to hunt properly, real prey, and not just play with your sibling. And you can see these cubs are quite large. They are almost a similar size as mum, maybe just a little bit smaller than her. You can still see the sort of furry tufts on the back of their neck, that fluff that shows that they are young. These cubs are about 11 months old, and they'll be with mom until 1.5, even 2. Look at him stalking his sibling and pouncing, exactly what he would do if he was stalking a young antelope, maybe a scrub hare, something that a young cheetah starting out would start to learn how to hunt. Oh, isn't that amazing? Oh, did you see that swat of the face? And these cheetah look like they have spent the night here. You can see all of the grass is depressed. And we haven't found a carcass yet, but we can smell one. So I think that, wow. So the one cub looks like she's getting a little bit dominated by the other one in this playful play fighting. And there's one female cub in this litter, and there's one male cub. And I think the male cub now is starting to get much stronger and more boisterous than her, and maybe starting to bully her a little bit. But still, no real danger to her. It's just, oh look, mom's just looked up and looked behind her. She's just taking in all the sounds and smells coming towards her. It's quite a windy day, so she's a little bit extra cautious today. So Cheryl has asked how long cheetahs live in the wild. And so a cheetah, we've talked about how they sort of leave when they're 2 years old, their mother. And their life expectancy is generally about 12 years. Males will live for shorter than females because of the life that they lead. They fight a lot more. They have to battle for territory with other male cheetah. So females will generally live a little bit longer than males, but about 12 years old. And I'm not sure how old this mother is, but I think it's not her first litter. Let's just have a look at her face. She's in great condition. She has got beautiful fur, well muscled, and she hasn't got a lot of scars on her face or any sort of cuts in her ear or anything like that. I'd assume or estimate that she's around 5 or 6. She's not an old cheetah. She looks like she's kind of in her prime. And yeah, this is her second or third litter. Look at her playing with her cub. The Sassy Cassie has asked whether some cheetah actually hurt each other when they play fighting as cubs, and I'm relatively sure, I'm actually 100% sure they do hurt each other. They will nip each other. They've got very, very sharp teeth. They've got claws that they can't retract, and when they're young, their claws are still very sharp. They actually get more blunt when they get older. So when they're youngest is when their teeth are the sharpest and their claws are the sharpest. So even though they're not meaning to hurt each other, I'm sure that at times they nip a little bit too hard when they're getting too excited and maybe not understand how much they're hurting their sibling. But I think it's never really on purpose, and it'll always be so if one of the siblings hurts the other one, the game will immediately stop. There will be he'll run away and not want to play anymore, and yeah, or give him a big slap back and tell him to stop. So when it gets serious, it really doesn't last for long. So having spent the night here, I think these cheetah are starting to get a little bit more excited. They're getting active and kind of wanting to play. Even the mothers looking to get up and look around. But as I did mention, we did see smell a carcass here. We're going to try and find it, see how much meat is left on it. But for now, we're going to send you off to another live location.
Welcome back to our Ross males at and beyond Ngala. They've gotten up and they're on the scent of something again. You can see they're both walking with their heads down. They're definitely smelling something as they're walking on the trail. From this angle you can see exactly how full that stomach is as well. You can actually also see the size difference between them here. The lion walking at the back is the dark maned one. He's the more dominant. And he's quite a lot bigger in body size and muscle mass than the blonder one, which is the one in front. Yeah, and his gut. It's got a very full stomach. But even just have a look at how thick his legs are. Compared to the other male, he's a lot more muscular. Right, so we're going to move around to the front of them again very shortly. Moving into those quarry thickets. What a ridiculous sighting this morning. And this is such a stunning area to see them in as well. It's so nice and open. The light is perfect this morning. Nice and golden. They're actually on their way to a little pan system, a little water hole. Maybe we'll be lucky and get them drinking. I think this larger male at the back definitely needs it this morning for digestion. Right, so we're going to follow them down towards this pan system and see what happens.
Came across some elephants and look at this little one's ears. We're going to lose them soon. They're going to go to the thicket and we won't have any visual. Both ears are completely flopped over. Oh. I wonder what's happened, if there's been an injury or something genetic, or the cartilage maybe hasn't developed properly. So although elephants' ears are very thin and made of skin at the top, the very, very top is cartilage to give the structure. Cartilage is the exact same material that we have in our ears. It's very flexible. I think that was the only visual we could give you, I'm afraid. Unless I can slightly move forward. Let's see if we can just go forward a little bit, but if not... we can give you a bum shot. There's nothing quite like an elephant bottom in the bush. Now, many of you are probably wondering, would that affect this youngster's life? Well, I imagine it'll be able to survive, but yes, They use their ears for thermoregulation, said to give off 75% of the elephant's heat. So in summer, that little one's not going to be able to flap its ears. I don't imagine at that age the ears are going to open up. The cartilage is going to rebuild. I could be wrong. It'll definitely have an impact. I think the elephant will still be able to survive, but it may struggle when it comes to thermoregulation. You can see even the adults are not flapping their ears that much. It really was a chilly morning. It's starting to warm up. I think that was Bradley. I hope I got that right. You're asking at what age do elephants sort of come into estrus? They start a lot younger than males, but just like human females, to be perfectly honest, it takes time. So the young elephants will actually come into what we would call a pseudo-estrus first. Now, this is when the hormones are developing and it's not quite a strong enough estrus to actually go on to pregnancy. But they come into a pseudo-estrus first, and then normally, I think, I'm just checking here actually, I think it's younger than males, so can happen from around the age of 10. But like I mentioned, this will just be a pseudo-estrus, and it will take time for them to come into full estrus for elephants. But I'm just going to check that for you. The females sort of come into their sexual maturity before males do. Estrus in elephants is said to last for up to 6 days, so it's not a long period. The bulls, and it's also not synchronized. So the bulls are in must. I'm sorry, this is really not good visuals, that's all we have. The bulls are in must a lot longer than the females are in estrus, and that gives the males the opportunity to mate with many different females in the area. So Bradley, I'm going to check that age for you, and we are going to bumble on to see what else we can find.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. We're still with the 2 male cheetahs. It looks like they've gone static just at the top of a dune. Obviously renowned for using points of elevation, and this dune would be one of that. Look at the size. It's almost like a small mountain, a little hill. So obviously they will be scouting from up there, seeing what the veld can provide for them. You can just see the heads peeking out there, actually, and they're looking down. It will be a good indicator to know where the prey species are for them. So that's why they would take advantage of that. Yeah, still looking around. Why are cheetahs weak compared to most predators? I mean, look at the build of the cheetah. It's almost, I'll give you a point of reference. If you look at your greyhound, very slender and very elongated, so there's not much muscle there, and not much weight. And it's for the reason that they are built for speed. And hence they not as bulky as other cats. So that is already a disadvantage in the sense of weakness. But in the sense of speed, then that's a big plus, because then they can reach the speeds they can reach, and that's what they have on the plus side, that they can evade from danger. But also remember that each predator has a niche in the field. So the gap that they fill is taking down small prey, whereas the bigger cats would be taking down bigger prey. So that's the gap that they fill. So each predator would have that niche that they're filling, or let's say each animal, even herbivores, each animal has a specific niche that they are actually filling. So these guys, the gap they fill is anything small, probably from about young oryx, kudu females going down, whereas your bigger cats would be up to about things like giraffe. I've seen a lion also go for a young elephant. So that's the gap in between that different predators have to go by. And obviously for those, they need different strengths. And hence the cheetah is at the bottom of the apex predators. We'll still stick with these guys and see what happens next. A beautiful sight to see them up the dune like that. For the time being, while we wait on them, let's send you off to another beautiful location in Africa.
Well, it seems like a bit of a cheetah bonanza today on Wild Earth. I'm so happy that we could show you these beautiful cats, because they are very, very difficult to see in the wild, and there's not many places where their range persists anymore. Very, very endangered. And Phinda and Tswalu are quite well known for cheetah conservation. And it's amazing. I'm sure the habitat that you saw, those cheetah and Tswalu, looks vastly different to this habitat here. We're in very green, lush, or subtropical bushveld here. Whereas, oh, did you hear that? They suddenly heard a sound, and that gave them it might have just been the wind, because looking around I can't see anything that would suggest that there's any imminent danger to them. But this wind just gusts every now and again, and there's these palm trees that are close that when the wind blows through them, it's this very loud grating sound that actually sounds exactly like a lion. And that's what's unsettling these cheetah. She's still listening and watching, but I think it is just the wind. And yeah, where there's this grass and these thickets in northern Zululand, where these cheetah live, they are at a bit more of a risk to being attacked by predators, because they can't see them coming often from a long distance away. That's why these cheetah particularly that live in Zululand will rest in open areas only. They can hunt in thickets and dense areas and even bush or woodland, but they will always come into these open areas and get themselves, like she's doing now, onto a raised position, a termite mound or a rocky outcrop, to be able to see 360 degrees around them for any danger that's approaching. Now her cubs have followed her onto that rocky outcrop. What an amazing sight. So Cheryl, do cheetahs ever play with their prey like leopards? 100% yes, they do. And especially these cubs, and especially this time of year, because at the moment is at Pinda, the time when impala lambs are all the impala's lambs are all getting born. So the impala are having their babies, and these cheetah are at exactly the right age for their mother to start teaching them how to hunt. And that's when they'd start to play a little bit with their food and try and keep the impala lamb or impala alive, and release it and then catch it again, and then release it and then try and catch it all over again. And that is just practicing hunting and catching and even killing. They'll practice even throttling their prey over and over again on the same impala. I'm just going to reposition now to see where these cheetah have gone. They may look to move on from now. They have rested in that spot for the whole night, so it might be a perfect time for them. It looks like they've smelled something there in that ditch. I think there's a little bit of water that's collected in the rock there. So Tori's asking, when will the cubs participate in hunting? And they're already joining her on the hunt. So when she starts to stalk an impala, for example, they will stalk with her. So they're practicing and joining in on the stalking side of hunting already. But they let her do the catching and the strangling. And I think it'll still be a few months. Look at that cheetah, she's drinking from a puddle in a rock. It's not often you see that. And I think in a few months' time they'll actually start to be able to actually hunt and kill themselves. Smaller animals to start with, like those impala lambs, and I think they'll take this opportunity to start to hunt and participate now in the November, December, January kind of period. But they have done very well, these cheetah. This pair of cubs actually used to be 2 or 4 cubs, and the other 2, brother and sister, we're not sure, were killed by lions one day, and they were left, and their mother took them far out of the area where those lions were, where that lions incident had happened, to a safer place. And for about 6 or 7 months she stayed up there, got her cubs to this stage where they're now able to look after themselves almost, and are quite streetwise, and now she's brought them back to the same area where they were born. So she's a very, very good mom. And we are going to try and stick with these cheetah as much as we can today and see what they get up to. But we're going to send you for now to another live location.
There's nothing quite like having a traffic jam like this. It's the same herd earlier we managed to get around. And yes, it is on average around 10 years old that a female can sort of first come into her proper estrus. But apparently elephants can give birth ranging anywhere from 7 to 22. Now that's the broad spectrum, and 7's very, very young, but it's possible. So on average, it's anywhere between 10 to 15 years old that a female can first have her first calf. But she will come into pseudo-estrus before that. The cycle will take quite some time to normalize. Oh, I think it's funny when these big grey pachyderms shove each other around. So it's really dependent on the individual itself, Bradley, in answer to ask your question. females will sort of signal that they're coming into estrus from a range of different ways. There's one coming, males, there's one approaching on the left. I don't really want to block their path. I don't want to drive on the road, but I think there's one just about to cross the road. There we go. And yes, they'll signal mainly through chemicals via their urine. So the males normally dribble a lot, leaky penis syndrome, to leave their urine signals. I'm and must, but a female can also do that. Secrete lots of urine as she moves to help the males find her, and the males are helping her find him. But she also postures. There's an estrus walk that the males can recognize that a female is trying to signal to him that she's in estrus. There's all sorts of external characteristics, not just chemicals, that show a female is ready. It's normally when they hold their heads really, really high and their tail high, and this is known as the estrus walk. It's very exaggerated. And they increase their tactile behaviour towards males. Generally in a herd, the females don't really like the males. They don't generally enjoy being around them. It's a matriarchal female-dominated herd. But when a female is in estrus, the full estrus, she's normally a lot more receptive and tactile towards the males. She has to show the males that she's ready. Look at that little youngster. There was a study done in Amboseli, and the average sort of time span that a female will give birth is every 5. That was a youngster trumpet. Oh no, they're all running. Sorry, not these ones. I'm looking at the ones on my right-hand side. We're surrounded by elephants. I think a youngster was having a bit of a tantrum there. That didn't sound the sort of deep trumpet of an adult. But the adults seem all relaxed, which means it's just a youngster having another tantrum.
What a lucky morning we're having with elephants and Ross males here at Untitled. Absolutely incredible. So we've actually seen a very interesting behavior now about 4 times. This is the more dominant Ross male, the darker-maned one with the scarred face. He's calling up behind us. Not quite a full roar, but they've done a very interesting dominance display now about 4 times, where this male has been lying down and the less dominant male has actually come over and climbed on top of him as though he's going to mate, and there's a big commotion, and then the less dominant male will get up and scent mark. So I think again we're starting to see a bit of a dominance overthrow in these 2 males. Look at those teeth. So yesterday we were speaking about how yellow a lion's teeth can get. On this particular male, you can see that his teeth are incredibly yellow, especially those 2 canines, the longer ones on the ends, that he uses for biting and defending himself. He's heard something that caught his attention. Pomeranian mom, all of the predators are opportunistic, and even this lion with such a full belly could still hunt effectively. He is a lot slower though, and he won't necessarily go for something that would give him a challenge. So in this state, he could still hunt, he could still weigh something down and suffocate it or break its neck. But it would only happen if something was incredibly close and hadn't noticed him, because it does take them a bit of distance to build up some speed. And he won't be able to do that now with such a full belly, so he would have to rely only on the element of surprise. And where he is at the moment, he's in the open. He is in the shade, so he is a bit more difficult to see, but there's no dense bush around him, which means he doesn't have the element of surprise. So where he is at the moment, unless something literally came running out of the bushes and almost ran into him, I don't think he would take any chances at hunting. He certainly doesn't need it. His belly is incredibly full. I don't think he can even fit anything else in there. So I think he's in a bit of a position now where his brother has actually walked off to quite a bit of a distance away and lay down under a different tree. And so I think they're just appreciating a bit of distance from each other after that dominance display. Look how he's panting for that big stomach to try and aid with digestion. So for a lion like this, it's actually quite difficult for them to get comfortable with such a big belly. It raises the body temperature. It's very hard. Johnny Whiskey, dominance changes within brother coalitions like this can be quite common. And it's something that we have seen before, but we've been very lucky with the Ross males in particular here at Beyond Ngala, because we've seen them so consistently and seen them together so consistently. So it's been an amazing opportunity for us to actually watch how it's happening and how frequently it's happening. But it definitely does happen. Anytime there's a carcass, you'll see dominance issues coming up. But also anytime that a female's ready to go into estrus and start mating, then the dominance issues surface again. But this time they're actually even more serious, because any animal's natural instinct is to be the father of children, to create offspring. So we have seen it quite a lot with these particular males. We actually haven't been lucky enough to see it very often before this, but that's not because it doesn't happen. It's just because sometimes they're not as consistently seen. But it has been incredible watching them grow and change over the last 2.5 years. Maddie, it is so lovely to have your question. I don't know if he's going to roar for us today. It almost sounded like one of them was starting just now. And then I think they got a little bit lazy. You can imagine if you've had a really, really, really big meal, you start getting a bit tired. Maybe you want to go to sleep. So I think that's how they're feeling at the moment, Maddie. I don't think he'll be roaring right now, but you never know. Maybe we'll get lucky. But hopefully they do make some noise for you. So there you can see the less dominant one that was making a noise, Maddie. So we're going to sit here and maybe, Maddie, this less dominant male might start making a noise for you just now.
Still with our male cheetahs here at Tswalu Kalahari. They've been actually looking around. There's been a lot of jackal calls in the distance, and it has definitely got interest out of these boys. They're still not sure what's happening, including myself, and why the jackals are calling like that. But definitely it has caught these boys' attention, and I'm hoping they would investigate and take us there, and we'll be able to have a better understanding of what had happened or what the jackals were calling about. But still taking advantage of that June top. You can see when one takes a bit of a snooze, the one would also be on the lookout, just taking turns and making sure that both of them are safe at all times. And that's why a collision like this will always render important. very, very significant for the two boys. Survival is everything. Let's see what happens. He's looking directly down towards us now. Oh, something caught his attention there. It was another quick look to the right.
What a wonderful morning sitting here with these elephants, very relaxed. I haven't caught sight of that floppy-eared youngster again, but I'm looking out for it. The ears should not flop over at that age. Now, although this herd is separated, they'll all be in constant communication with one another, and elephants are incredibly social mammals, and their communication ranges from, it's on a huge spectrum, shall we say, which ranges from rubbing against one another, that's a form of communication when they rub their bodies against one another, to the very other end of the spectrum, which is responding or moving towards sounds that are coming from other elephants, possibly 10 kilometers away, that humans cannot hear or feel in any way, shape or form. Now, what I mean by feel is, as you know, elephants can detect vibrations. But in order to do that, they have to have the mechanism. And they have mechanoreceptors known as Pacinian corpuscles. And they're most densely packed in the tip of an elephant's trunk. And they're just cells, they're specialized cells. And they're extremely sensitive to vibrations. Now, they also have them on their foot, and it's very much concentrated at the sort of front of the foot and the back of the foot, so the heel area and the toe area of the feet. That's where you'll find these cells, these specialized mechanoreceptors, are most highly packed, they're the most dense. And this is why you will often see an elephant standing with its toe pointing towards the ground, almost like a ballerina. It lifts its heel off the ground and it's just got its toe touching the ground, because that's where the cells are most highly packed. And they're trying to detect vibrations in the ground. Now, when these specialized cells, the Pacinian corpuscles, detect the vibrations, they sort of send a signal back to the brain through nerves. And this allows the brain to analyse exactly what they're detecting, what vibrations are these elephants detecting. And sometimes you'll see an elephant lift one of its legs completely off the ground. And it's trying to triangulate. It's trying to concentrate the vibrations into the feet in a sort of triangular shape to understand more, well, I guess in more depth, about what the vibrations are telling it. But there's more of these cells packed in the trunk than anywhere else. I don't think we have the best views here, do we, Niels? Let's try and go forward. They also have low rumbles, so they're constantly talking to one another. The mothers are in constant communication with the youngsters, and the adults are in constant communication with one another. Need to repeat that name, Elton. But yes, elephants eat all day. And I'm going to tell you why. Just let me position carefully. But yes, they do eat all day because they have a very sort of inefficient digestive system. They're bulk feeders and they're not really specialized. Their diet highly changes between summer and winter. So they've got to adapt to the environmental conditions. It's not easy for them in winter. It's very, very harsh. And of course, when summer arrives, everything is plentiful. Now, what I mean by a poor digestive system is that because they're bulk feeders, they sort of choose quantity over quality, if you like, and they just eat. And the reason is they only digest about 40% of what they're eating. And that's why when we do look at elephant dung, as we all love doing so much, you can see that is mostly undigested plant material. And this is quite common of bulk feeders. It's sort of just keep eating, keep sustaining yourself, keep getting nutrition rather than being selective. An elephant can't really afford to be so selective about what they eat. And that's why they're always eating. So they spend most of their day just roaming, eating, going to the water holes, roaming and eating some more. This is such a lovely herd. I'm going to try and see if we can keep up with them a little bit longer.
Western side of the Stars borders.
So welcome back to the Mara, where we have a vulture sunning up. You can see how it opens its wing to actually sun and to dry its feathers. Because after the rains, you find they get soaky and wet. It's time to preen, and before the pommels rise, so it will be a good time to actually dry the feathers, because most of the time you find that they use the thermals to soar. There's no carcasses at the moment, so you find vultures on just trees roosting for days and days. Sometimes they can even go for a bit longer without eating. That's a very, very nice position, because the sun is actually behind this vulture, so he's pointing his back where he can dry the feathers, wait for the thermals to go up in the air. This is the Ruppel's griffon vulture. It's actually one of the biggest. But the biggest vulture is the lappet-faced, and then the Ruppel's griffon with the African white-backed vulture. So vultures normally depend on carcasses, or they scavenge for food. But we have two unique species of vultures that don't really necessarily have to scavenge. We have the palm nut vulture, where it will eat fruits when there is no carcasses to scavenge on. And we also have the hooded vulture. Sometimes you can see them nibbling on dung. Sometimes the presence of vultures really tell if we have carcasses or not. But seeing just a single one, you can tell that this is the roosting tree that this vulture it normally uses to perch. But if there were a carcass around here, you see lots of vultures up in the trees, some on the ground. Oh. Didn't get the name quite clearly. What is a group of vultures called? A group of vultures is called a committee of vultures. Because we have a long distance away from cliffs and rocks, these vultures normally roost on cliffs, as opposed to the other ones who roost on trees. Rupal vultures can travel long distances from their roosting sites to come here for food, and when the food is over, they'll head off to another place and where they always roost. So Rupal's griffon vulture always roost on rocks or cliffs, while the African wetback vulture, they roost normally on trees. Seems like nothing around this area. We just seen quiet plains, so I'm going to carry on to find something else as I take you over to another live location.
Well, we're starting our day with one of the tallest animals, or if not the tallest living mammal. And normally we started with elephants, so it's quite a nice surprise to have some giraffe here this morning. But we've been off the car tracking leopards all morning long. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is BK. And like I said, we're here at Pridelands, which is part of BUTLER Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger. So we had a very, very quick visual of a male leopard, which BK spotted, and he slunk down into the drainage line. So we did try and relocate on him, but unfortunately he was just not having any of it this morning. So we found some other creatures a little bit more obliging. Now, this is quite an interesting scene that we've got here. I haven't seen the giraffe in front just yet, but you can see it's substantially, well, smaller in size. But I think it's also a male. I don't think that is a female. And that bull is he's quite frisky. And the problem is that he's not a dominant bull either. So none of this behavior should be going on. I just don't think he can help himself. Although it is quite common in the animal kingdom for males to mount one another to show their dominance. Shame. Bless him. But it is quite funny. Every now and then it kind of looks like a Jurassic Park scene. Right, there he goes, trying again. I'm just going to quadruple check that is a young male. His ossicones look quite sort of thick at the base, and looks like he's losing some hair. Yeah, it's definitely a young male, and now I can see the other bits that make him a boy too. So I'm very sorry, young fella, that you're being bullied this morning. Perhaps you need to stand up for yourself and give him a bit of a kick or a chop. That might sort him out. There you go. He's desperately trying to swing his head in that older bull's direction. But like I said, none of these three giraffe bulls that are standing here are anywhere near sort of having any mating rights. There are some beautiful big bulls, which we've shown you in the past. Just leave him alone. Maybe practice makes perfect. It is quite difficult for giraffe to mate, so perhaps this is his only option. Belinda, so it depends on the species of giraffe. The Maasai giraffe are the tallest of the giraffes. This bull on the right-hand side, I don't think has quite reached his maximum height. I reckon he's probably only standing at about 3.5 meters, but he'll get to well over 4 meters, but he's still got quite a bit of growing to do. You can even see that he hasn't even got any muscle really built up on his neck and on his shoulders. Because when we see those beautiful big bulls, it's not always the case, but in this area, we typically see with the giraffe bulls that are of good genetics, well, maybe preference will be shown to them by the females. They're almost black in coloration. But that's got to do with testosterone and also, of course, their genetics that will determine that. But these boys are still very, very, very young. It's quite hard to age them. I'd say the fella on the right-hand side is probably about between maybe 10 to 12 years old. He's not that old. Maybe even a bit younger than that. Perhaps I'm being a bit generous. The bull at the back, that you can just see his head sort of feeding, he's definitely older than the other two. But it's quite a nice scene, although I did see that the other morning you had such a fantastic sighting of the Maasai giraffe. I don't think I've ever seen so many in one frame. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to have a gathering like that here at Pridelands.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinda, and we have left the cheetah mother and 2 cubs for some other game drive vehicles to enjoy for a minute. We don't want to visit them with too many vehicles because it will stress them out, but when there's space for us again, we'll go and find them and join them again. But we've just found these 2 in the open area as well, in this small depression where there used to be water, so it's beautifully green and there's lots of moisture in the grass. I'm just going to reposition the vehicle. There we are. And it's a mother and a calf. See how they've just noticed us, and I've got all their attention on us, and she's decided, no, we're not a threat. And she's feeding on this beautiful, beautiful green grass. Have a look at their mouths, how square they are, squarish almost. And that is designed perfectly for doing what she's doing now, plucking grass out of the ground with her lips. Actually, rhinos don't have front teeth, they have lips, and they use their lips to kind of almost like grip the grass and pull it out, and then they'll chew it with their back teeth. So they're basically designed as like a big massive lawnmower, just to crop grass right at almost at the roots, and feed on many, many, many kilograms of grass a day. She'll spend most of her day doing this until it gets hot, and then she'll probably find some shade to lie under and graze this afternoon. We are going to send you off to another live location.
Welcome back to Ngala, everybody. We've just found a pack of wild dogs finishing up. Looks like 2 impala carcasses. And this is just down the road from those 2 Ross males that we had. And we can actually see about 6 wild dogs at the moment. And they all seem to be eating on different parts of the impalas. There you can see 2 of the adults, and they've actually got the rib cage, and they're trying to rip the meat off of it. So this would have happened literally minutes ago. That's how quickly these wild dogs are feeding. It's definitely my lucky week, my absolute favorite. You can actually see they've already eaten quite a bit. They've got rounded bellies, but they're going to eat as much as they can before they move off, and before maybe something like a hyena comes in from the noise and the smell. But let's just listen for a minute to those sounds. Absolutely incredible. Tails raised, a lot of squeaking. This is how the wild dogs communicate when they're eating. So one of my favorite things about seeing a sighting like this is all of these different behaviors and the dynamics within the pack. They're trying to get every last morsel off of this carcass. Now you can see it's using its incisors, its front teeth, to try and rip a little bit of meat off of the bone. Isn't this light stunning? Melinda, wild dogs would live for between, say, 12 and 15 years, depending on the individual wild dog. We have had one that actually has lived for longer on Ngala, and we know him very well because he's very distinctive. He's got a shorter tail because the white tip has been bitten off, and he was the dominant male of our Ngala pack for a long time. We also have another one that's lived quite long that actually had a torn penile sheath, so he was also very, very easy to recognize. So you can see the ones at the back have almost lost interest a little bit. I think they're getting a bit full. And they've started moving off, milling around, deciding where to go next. They might even be looking for the rest of the pack, because this pack should be quite a bit bigger. It shouldn't only be these 6. And these 2 look a little bit younger. They're a bit smaller. And that's probably why they're still feeding, because they are still just transitioning to adults from pups. So they're still very fascinated by carcasses. They want to eat more. They've got a little bit more energy to burn. Look at that belly. I love how it's constantly wagging its tail from side to side. So this is partly a behavioral thing, particularly in wild dogs, where they do tend to wag their tails when they're feeding or greeting each other. But it's also to help with flies and pests. They're chasing each other. So you can imagine with noises like this, a lot of playtime happening. This is something that would definitely attract something like hyenas, because that sound is very distinctive for wild dogs. And it's particularly when they're feeding that this kind of playing and squeaking happens. So the wind direction has actually just changed. It's now blowing straight towards us. You can see that grass moving as it's feeding. And now we can smell them. And I think it's a smell that some people don't like, but it's a smell that I absolutely love, because I know that I associate it with wild dogs and they're my favorite. So this is the rarest predator that we could actually see here on Ngala. In terms of their numbers left in the world, there's hardly any, so it's really, really important for us to be able to appreciate this sighting and how rare it actually is to see a pack of wild dogs. And even better to see them feeding, playing, interacting. Now they've all gained interest in the carcass again, and you can see that they're actually pulling from opposite sides. So that's to try and help each other rip pieces off. That's exactly how they would actually make a kill. They surround an animal and all rip from a different side. They're actually the most efficient predators in terms of their kill rate, because they are so fast and they're so quick at killing. Look at that chunk. They've heard the francolins, the crested francolins in the background. So they're making sure that there isn't a hyena coming. Blaine, that's a fantastic question. So the wild dogs have a very fluffy tail, and it's distinctively incredibly white. They're all moving off. They must have heard something that gave them a bit of a fright. So that bushy tail helps them follow each other when they're running at speed in the long grass, maybe hunting, when they would have come and caught this impala in the bush, especially in the thickets. But it's also very, very important for when pups are following, when they start moving from den side to den side, they'll be following that white tail, and it's something that sticks out in terms of their camouflage. It also helps them when they're communicating, so that thick bushy tail is often how they would display the different body languages of bonding or maybe intimidating each other by lifting that tail. And I think now they've realized it was a bit of a false alarm. There was no hyena coming, and so they're starting to come back to the carcass. So this is one of the older males in the pack. You can see he's quite large. And so that's possibly why he came back when the others are still a little bit nervous to come back, is because he is more dominant, he's older, he's more experienced. Marianne, when wild dogs make a kill like this, they might eat some of the bones, but more often than not, they actually leave a lot of the bones, and the hyenas will actually come in and eat that. But they definitely do chew on bones. Being a dog, they do enjoy chewing. It helps keep their teeth clean and sharp. But actually what normally happens is, because they are such good predators, the hyenas know to follow them. So when they're following them, they normally will come in and try and steal the carcass long before the wild dogs manage to actually finish all the bones. But some of the softer bones they might chew on more. So maybe things like a bit of the nose, maybe some of the leg bones. The rib cage and the spine are normally quite hard. So maybe they'll eat certain bones but not others. They do also actually enjoy chewing on horns. So if it's a male impala, for example, they might actually chew on those horns with that keratin, the hard, darker substance on the outside that protects the horn. They enjoy chewing on that. So do hyenas, actually. But you can see what they're actually going for is all of the soft tissue that is in between the bones, especially that one. It's pulling the lining off of the inside of the rib cage, because that has more nutrients and energy for them. Wild dogs are incredibly good at clearing up a carcass down to literally just the bones. So this is actually the same pack of wild dogs we saw the other day. And you can see that the female that's feeding closest to us has that same white marking around her tail that looks like a pelvic bone. Very, very distinctive for this particular female. She is the dominant female of this pack as far as we can tell. So it's actually quite likely that this would be the alpha male and female, and the other ones that we saw around were slightly smaller, so they might be the pups from the previous litter. It's very interesting because wild dogs have a completely different structure to any other animals. In things like those lions that we saw this morning, and even elephants, it's usually the males that end up leaving or being chased out when they start getting old enough to be a bit rough, maybe start looking towards sexual maturity. In wild dogs, the males actually stay with the pack, and the females are the ones that either leave or get chased out by the dominant or the alpha. And they will go off and join a new pack or form a new pack. And that just helps the wild dogs keep a bit of genetic diversity. So basically, just making sure that they're not interbreeding with close relatives. And it's very important for their survival at the moment because there really aren't many wild dogs left. You can see she's just pulling off the edge of the rib cage there. So I think at this point with the carcass, it's starting to get down to the dregs in between the rib bones. So what might happen is because the others have lost interest, maybe they'll actually start moving off to try and find the rest of the pack. And so when that happens, this female will join them and they might go and find the rest of the pack and they'll leave what is left here for the vultures and the hyenas.
So we're sitting with two giraffe that have now just moved out of frame, but we're watching some very interesting behavior, which is quite nice to see. There's actually an abundance of creatures here. Perhaps it's not only mating giraffe that we're going to see today. I'm going to draw your attention very quickly to a pair of zebras that seem to be doing the exact same thing. However, the zebra on the right, which looks like a mare, doesn't seem to be particularly interested. As you saw, she was bucking and bronking. What a fascinating day it is here out on zebra clearings. Animals of all kinds sort of doing the same thing, which is quite entertaining. You can just see they're just feeding. I don't know where the rest of the herd is. They might just be off just behind us, just feeding and doing what zebras normally do. Maybe maybe the zebra on the right is coming into estrus. It does look like a female. It's very difficult to tell the difference between male and female zebras. I kind of just use the rule of thumb that I would use for horses. Typically the males, the stallions, obviously producing lots of testosterone, have a nice big thick neck and quite strong forequarters and hindquarters. You can see this one looks sort of quite slight from this angle. I think it is a mare, perhaps. The stallion has separated this female from his harem, from his herd, in order to mate with her, to continue passing on his genetics.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. Our two boys have just got back together. A little bit of grooming here and there, and it looks like this is where they're going to be settling for the day. It's a good position for them, in the sense they can see both sides of the dune. We've also come around the dune to try and see what on this side of the dune they do see. So it's a different angle from where we were earlier with them, but a very good all-round perspective for them to be able to have that. And also look at how they've positioned themselves, almost one looking behind the other, so definitely covering the both sides of the dune. A bit of a snooze here and there also. I mean, it is evident that they are going to do that during the course of the day, with a snooze here and there. I think with the heat of the day, they might maybe look for a shade, because the tip of the dune there is going to start being very, very hot as the day progresses. Catching a whiff of something in the air there. Nothing too important. He's going to go back snoozing.
Well, I have some lions here who are nicely resting, enjoying their daily dose of sun. Looks like the breakaway from the River Pride. I will have to identify them when I see how many there are and who, the marks that I normally use to identify them. But they're resting, not doing much. But this is part of their life. Without this, there will not be a complete lion or lioness. Looks like they are very young, almost, I would give them about 3 years old. They might be sisters by the size, but they haven't done much since I arrived here. So I'm gonna wait here, see what, if they're gonna maybe wake up and show me their faces. Yeah, all the cold from last night. Maybe they tried to kill something and they didn't manage. All the dew, a little bit of rain. It did rain a little bit. So all combination of all those makes them really want to enjoy the morning sun. We have a lot of, European bee eaters flying over us. I don't know if you can hear them. Well, I'll let you to listen to those European bee eaters flying over us as we take you to another live location.
Hello everybody, good morning and welcome. After 2 hours of my driving around, hacking about, finding next to nothing, we finally got ourselves a hyena having a swim in the mud, which is probably what I should be doing. It would be the most efficient use of my time. My name is James Henry. On camera today is Gerrit, who is very bored of driving around on here with me finding nothing. Anyway, there's our hyena. We've basically done an entire circuit of the western sector of Djuma and Simbambili, come up with a lot of tracks and with no animals. Now, our attention in this particular area was arrested by the descent of a vulture, a rapid descent of a vulture, and we immediately assumed that we were onto something. But the vulture seemed to be following a batelier, which I think was probably just having some water. But this hyena maybe indicates that it could be something here. And so we'll follow the hyena and see where it goes. It's just behind us. We'll turn around and have another look. It's going sort of in the direction that we'd been looking at where those vultures were. Got a nice shiny mud patch on its bum. Looks like it's wearing leggings, activewear. Yes, we'll come. We'll follow you. That's it. Lead us to a leopard. Good. Well, something, I suppose. Something of a lead. We'll go bungling in here. Let's see if this hyena takes us to where we want to be. And where we want to be is beneath a leopard in a tree. We moved around where Kara was last night. She's moved on. We had lots of tracks but we just didn't come up with it. Anyway, let's see where this hyena goes. Just headed through here, up towards the water hole at Twin Dams. Maybe the water in the puddle wasn't sufficient. Yes.
Welcome back to the pack of wild dogs at and beyond Ngala. We had the strangest experience. They actually all lost interest in the carcass, moved off, and now they're all back and feeding again. So you can actually see they're busy trying to clean that meat off of the bones. But every now and then we can actually hear them crunching on the bones as well. Look at those muscles on that back leg. You can see why they're so fast. They're incredibly good with stamina. They can keep running for ages. Look at them ripping. Just checking around to see if there's anything else coming. So that dominant female with the white on her rump actually picked up an entire kidney just now and walked off with it. And she left these ones to pull at the carcass and the skin. You can hear the bones crunching. Isn't that an incredible sound? Just imagine how powerful those jaws are. They're not quite as strong as a hyena's. But just listen to that crunching. Something's caught its attention. Sassy Cassie, wild dogs eat incredibly fast to try and get in as much meat as they can, because sometimes the pack splits up, and so if some of them don't get food, the rest of the pack will actually feed them by regurgitating. They do the same for their pups. If they go back to the den, they'll regurgitate the fresh meat for them. But because they're such successful predators and such a high kill rate in terms of their hunting strategy, they actually are normally followed around by things like hyenas, and so often they want to eat as quickly as they can, get as much meat in as they can, in case something comes along to try and steal that carcass, so that at least the energy that they spent has been worth it. So that's why they're also being so careful. They'll feed and then kind of look around a bit, move around a bit, and then come back to the carcass, because they want to make sure that they're getting everything that they can off of there. They don't know when they might find some food again. So it's really important for any predator to really take advantage when you have the food in front of you. So it's actually getting into a really awesome season for the wild dogs at the moment, because the impalas are all lambing soon. So wild dogs have been known to take very young buffalo calves, but because buffaloes are so protective, it is unlikely that it's going to happen very often. They would rather go for things like the impala lambs that are about to be born, herds of impala, maybe even a very young wildebeest. So it would just depend on the size of the pack and also the situation. So if it's a big buffalo herd, with a young calf, then it's unlikely that they would go for it because buffalo are incredibly protective and might chase them off. But if it's, for example, a mother that might be lagging behind with a very, very young calf that was born maybe a week ago, then possibly they might go for that buffalo calf. I have never seen it personally, but I have definitely heard about it. But now the season is absolutely awesome for them because the impalas are going to be lambing. So this was an adult impala that they took. But very likely she might have actually had a lamb already. So she would have been pregnant. And very soon all of the impalas are going to start lambing. And when that happens, it means that there's a lot of easy food for the wild dogs. We've actually just had our first vulture fly in. It's a hooded vulture, and there's 3 more coming. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it's going to come in and try and land. It's actually just landed in the tree off to our left, waiting for this wild dog to move. Because the wild dogs are so much faster than the vultures want to make sure that they don't land somewhere where the wild dogs can get them very quickly. So we're going to sit here and see what happens. Maybe these vultures decide to come down and feed.
We don't have wild dogs, I promise. We have the entire Pungwe pack and all the puppies, but sadly, we're going to have to move and relocate them. We're not going to have any visuals of them for a bit. They've gone into the thicket. And they smell awful. You can smell dogs a mile away. It's very acidic, sour. Oh, it's not pleasant. You can see them. They're on a mission. Actually, we have got a visual. If you don't mind, Elton, I'd like to give you the visual now, just in case we do lose them. Is that okay? There we go. Can you work with this, Niels? The Pungwe pack. Now, I haven't done a count, but I imagine everybody's here. I wonder how that little puppy with the sort of broken ankle joint, if you like, something's very, very wrong with one of the pup's legs is doing. Now, we saw a hyena covered in blood. I didn't manage to get an ID and the hyena walked off, so I think the dogs made a kill, which is exactly why the hyena's in the area. But I don't think they're seeking shade here. They've already had water, they've been at the dam. I think they're going to kill again. Sometimes if they make a small kill, we've got some puppies over here, Niels. If they make a small kill, it's not enough to feed the entire pack. These puppies are hungry. There's a lot of mouths to feed. So therefore they need to keep killing until everybody's tummies are full. Okay, now we really must follow them. Now we definitely have lost visual, but I'm glad you got to see them. We're up in Buffelshoek, away at Kayamanzi, and the dogs are on the move.
Those wild dogs seems like they are on a mission. Now back here we have a mixed herd. We have zebras, we have taupies, and over in the background I can see some eland. What a nice place to come and graze. So mixed herd comes in a very nice advantage because both species are able to alert each other whenever there's a predator around. There's no competition whatsoever because there's short grass and all this plain has enough grass, so no need to fight at all. Some of these zebras will be heading back to Tanzania. Some get delayed, and you find that they'll always be the last to head back to join the great herds that have gone over to Tanzania. Our top is here. Some of them have small calves, which come in a very common place like this where sometimes the calf will be left unattended while the moms or the mothers go out to graze and then come back. In amongst here we have a few males, and sometimes we find toppies doing a very nice display which we call a lek, where you find several males will come together in a courtship ritual known as lekking, which is very, very nice to see, where each and every male wants to entice visiting females. So the females come to survey for prospective members on who to mate with. So it finds that sometimes they do what we call a cantering or rocking canter, where they'll walk in a kind of display where the females will actually choose a right partner to mate with. Most of the calves are born during September, late September, mid or late September. And some of these calves may be 1 month old. So after the wildebeest have crossed over these plains, the short grass or the medium grass that is left is utilized by these species, because you find that they don't really like where there's long grass. This short grass is very, very nice, has palatable grass for them, and also gives them an advantage to look or to survey on a 360-degree angle for predators.
They're hunting the zebra. Can you believe it? They've tried. They've gone after the zebra. The zebra's fought back. They really want a zebra, but I don't know if it's far too big for them. It's not just one zebra, it's 3. If they chased and a zebra tripped, that would be ideal. Oh, they've backed off now. I think it's the puppies more than anything that want to try the zebra, but that's a big task. They hunt by coursing, so they could easily come up, bite at the legs, bite at the bottom, bite at the tummy. It's not impossible. For the puppies, it's impossible. For the adults, not so much. These dogs are still hungry. You see how tightly packed the zebras are. The puppies are very interested. The zebras know they've got to stand their ground and they've got to stay together. They're chasing the puppies. Wow, the adults are watching, keeping a close eye on what's going on. This would be a huge feast for the dogs if they took down a zebra. You see all the puppies running over here, Niels? Stand off. Wow. It's dangerous, but it's not impossible for the adults to cooperatively do this. Oh, look at the zebras, they're all huddled together. I don't see any other prey around, but there's a dam not so far away, and normally around the dam you find lots of antelope. If we can keep up with these dogs, they're definitely going to hunt. And look at the zebras just standing their ground, Neil, standing in a line, staring down their prey. They're not fleeing. Fleeing's the worst thing they could do. If they trip, they end up on the ground. If they end up isolated, that's the worst thing they could do. They're standing their ground. One kick from a zebra would be fatal for a wild dog. I didn't get that name, and I don't think I'm going to quite attempt to say the name. But if I'm not wrong, there should be 10 puppies. I need to do a count, but the last I'm aware of, there was 10. There was originally 12, but sadly I think 2 we lost. And for the adults, I think I'll need your help, viewers. I'm sure there's 6 adults. Like, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. But if any of you are experts on the Pungwe pack, I am having a brain meltdown today, which I'm quite happy to admit. There's lots of impala, I think, across over here. I'm just going to get my binos out. Excuse the noise. Yeah. It's impala on the other side of the dam. I think that's what the dogs are looking at. Leopard lover. You mean the exercise of chasing the zebra, probably. The puppies are still very curious, they're still learning, they're hungry, they're growing, probably very demanding. The puppies are definitely not going to hurt the zebra, but they're learning, chasing. Look at the size of the zebra next to the tiny little puppers. So yes, it's probably exercise, it's probably fun. The zebra are going to stand their ground. I don't think anything's going to happen. But for the impala at the other side of the dam, I'm not so sure they're going to be safe. Always feels very tense. There's a lot of tension in the air when a wild dog pack are active like this. They're incredible hunters with the highest success rate. It's all to do with the pack life. Now, It's not too hot right now, but it will get much hotter very soon. So we're going to keep a very close eye on this situation. And if anything changes, you'll be right back with us.
Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. In the time that you guys have been not with us, all that has changed is the wind making these two buoys also change a bit of positioning. They were across the crest of the dune, but now they're lying along the crest of the dune. And it obviously has to do with the wind. Just trying to utilize it because the wind has just started picking up. So they just trying to be strategic about it there. Still, with their backs back to back, it's always a vital thing for them to almost cover a 360 like that amongst the two of them. So it's just a bit of repositioning and just taking advantage of what Mother Nature is giving them. Nothing much else happening apart from that. So I think this is where they probably park for the rest of the day. And in a case like that, if they don't do anything in the next few minutes, we'll be leaving them here and probably heading off, trying to start look for other things for the remainder of the day, see what the Kalahari can provide us. Still hoping for more cats during this morning drive, so we'll see if we can pick up on any tracks whatsoever. We'll keep you in the update of what we do find when we do move out from here.
Well, good luck, Obi. Different location. Here we are in Masai Mara, and looks like somebody's getting some rain quite far away, but I have a very beautiful, big herd of about maybe 100 to 200 elephants scattered in front of me. And it's been a very good morning with plenty of elephants everywhere. As you can see, they're spread out. I'm in a place called Olpunyata Swamp, and it does get soggy here, sometimes difficult to drive around, but you can see they're enjoying the soft, beautiful grass, plus shrubs that are, in the swamp. All spread out, some playing, many eating. Yeah, elephants spend most of their life eating. They have a very poor digestive system, so they need constantly to be, filling their tummies as much as possible. Of course, young ones do supplement the grass and the browse with the milk, like the one we see there. Almost maybe about 8 months. And because there are so many together, definitely it's not one big herd. Yeah, this little guy there is about maybe 8 months or so. So he's still drinking. There are very many small herds that have come together. I would say not all are related. Maybe 4 or 5 are related. But because it's a good year, there's plenty to eat, they've come to this area. And mostly with the grass eaters or herbivores, there's no competition for grass unless one really closes into another. That's when they'll push one another, but there's no competition for grass or browse. So everybody is very happy enjoying the grass that's in plenty. very many old females and the young ones, half-growns with their young ones. Everybody is here. They just spread out, everywhere down there. And it looks like all their heads are headed down towards the river. Maybe they need some water, and definitely there are so many, so they'll need a lot of water. So they cannot get it out here. They'll have to go all the way to the river to get some more water. Down there, where there is that forest, that is where Sorry, I didn't get that. Could you repeat it once again? Beverly, thank you for your question. Why do they cross their legs when they stand? It's mainly to rest it. I'm sure with their size, they do get tired standing, although they need to eat constantly, so they need to eat standing. Every now and then it takes a toll, and so one has to rest its leg, and it's a much needed thing to rest it against the other one. Even if it's just for a few seconds, it is very needed, and they do that. It's just to rest it. And if they were to lie down, it's very difficult to go up, but when they need to, elephants will lie down to rest all legs, but definitely resting it on another leg is just to have a bit of a break from standing up. Look at how many they are, all spread out. And lots of young ones, as you can see. I cannot really tell you how this happens, but definitely it's like, they had an idea that this time would be very good to have, little ones, and so we have so many of them. I'll leave you to enjoy that little guy scratching his tough skin against that Pelanitis aegyptica tree. And yeah, let's take you to another location.
They're going for an impala over here. The impalas are starting. I knew this was going to happen. Okay, we're going to try and keep up. They just all ran. They've left the zebra. They're hungry, and it was the impala. The impala option was what they're looking for. You see the impalas, they stop. They do that really, really unique move when there's dogs. There's still more over here on my right-hand side. The zebra are behind. Tensions are high around this dam. And I've been trying to figure out if it is the Pungwe pack, actually. It got called in as that, but of course, I should have learned by now, you should identify the animal for yourself. So if anyone can identify the pack, please assist me. But here there appears to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 adults. Dogs, I think you lost your chance with those impalas. There's no time to stand your ground if you're an impala. If you're a zebra, yes, you've got a lot more power and weight behind you, far taller. But if you're an impala, you haven't. There's no time to stand your ground, an alarm call. It won't make a difference to the dogs. So impalas normally don't alarm for dogs. If you ever see impalas running extremely fast or stotting, like you just saw, it's dogs. Dogs are behind them. The stotting, they're trying to look bigger. They're trying to sort of say to the predator, in effect, I can jump very, very high. I can run very, very fast. Look at me. It makes them look bigger. It makes them look very athletic. And it's sort of a warning to say, don't bother. Don't waste your time. You won't catch me. that dogs' bodies have evolved to hunt by coursing, to run, outrun their prey, nip, bite, and ensure. What have the dogs got? Oh my goodness, what is that? Oh no. Okay, that's not very nice, everyone. Apologies, I think it's toilet paper. Oh dear. But yes, their slimline bodies, their long legs, they're light. They're not weighed down by heavy muscle. They're very, very light. It's not that they're not powerful. They do have very powerful jaws. But they're not weighed down by their own cumbersome body because they can't be. Their only option to hunt is, A, be cooperatively. They need each other. The pack is life. Life is pack. And also to be able to run and outrun. Origama, yes, I know the Pungwe pack has the collared alpha. Indeed. And the female also has a little sort of part of her upper lip missing, and it gives her a very unique look. But I can't see any collared individuals at the moment. I'll keep checking though, and hopefully we'll be able to get an idea on who this pack is. Okay. Whew, my heart was beating very, very fast there, and once again, if anything happens here, you'll be right back with us.
So we've been watching quite an interesting scene unfold here at and beyond Ngala. The pack of wild dogs is still here, and they've taken a piece of the carcass, but now we've got a whole lot of vultures that have started coming in where they were feeding, and so now they've started pulling apart the rib cage, and it's like watching a game of cat and mouse. Every time all the vultures come in, the wild dogs come and chase them. Watch, watch, watch. How incredible is that sound? It's a total game of wild dog and vulture here. And this has happened so many times already. So even though there's nothing left on this carcass, I think the wild dogs are actually just enjoying chasing the vultures. Watch as the vultures start creeping in again now that the wild dogs have given them some space. So we've easily got at least 50 vultures coming in. If you have a look, they're flying, landing in the trees, coming down to land on the ground. Watch the chaos that's about to happen. How incredible is this? Listen to the sounds of their wings. There's more and more vultures coming in here, moving between where the wild dogs had the other piece of the carcass and where the rib cage is. And now all of these vultures, they would have just seen the initial vultures coming in. And with all the commotion of the wild dogs chasing the first few, they saw that happening and came in thinking there was maybe something bigger like a buffalo carcass here. But it's just an impala. So there's really not enough food to go around here, so the competition is very high. But everywhere we look, there's vultures coming into land. There's just commotion happening. They're actually fighting with each other because there's really not a lot to go around, hopping over from one side of the carcass to the other. Listen to those noises. So if this was a bigger carcass, you wouldn't find this many vultures just standing looking around. They would all be so consumed by feeding, trying to get as much in as they can before any predators come in, because this kind of activity attracts the hyenas in particular. Vultures make a lot of noise when they're landing, when they're taking off and flying, and when they're fighting as well. They're having a full-on fight over this little bit of carcass that's left. So this is a mix of hooded vultures and white-backed vultures. And there are actually still some vultures in the trees in the distance watching all of this happening. Lane, that is a fantastic question. Vultures normally only have one chick that they raise. It doesn't necessarily mean that they'll only lay one egg though. So normally what happens is they might lay maybe 2 eggs or 3. And what happens is they'll only concentrate on one chick. So normally only one chick is reared by the parents. They'll actually often also use the exact same nest that they used previously. But because vultures are so endangered at the moment, we've actually got a project running here at Ngala where we're mapping out all of the nest sites that we've recorded for all the different species of vulture, because there's a massive conservation effort going throughout Africa to try and conserve vultures. You can see now they've started to run out of food. They're not quite sure what to do, if they should move around and look for more, if they should maybe start taking off again. Because the vultures won't eat the bones, they'll only eat the meat. They might eat smaller pieces of bone, and their stomach is actually so acidic that they can actually digest all of that material. So I think we're going to sit here and see what happens with these vultures. Maybe we might get some more action.
Perfect.
Look at this amazing pool party. Sorry, everybody. I have come undone. My earpiece has detached itself, but we're back now. So we've got all of the elephant bulls all coming down together, and I just got word from the bushwalk team that the buffalo herd doesn't seem to be too far away. I think they've done a sneaky and loop behind us, and will hopefully come in on the western side of the dam, which is quite cool. So we could have some really, really nice interactions here this morning at Ndlovu Dam, right outside the eco training camp, the camp where you don't even need to leave to view all the wonderful animals. Pretty sure we had a lion here last night at some point too. But that's beside the point. Of course, the boys are getting ready for an exceptionally warm day. I think it's going to get up to about 35 degrees Celsius. That's going to be not quite a scorcher, but definitely warranting a nice swim. Well, this is awesome. We even have some guests in camp at the moment, so they're out on bushwalk with Richard, one of Eco Training's other instructors, and they're watching safely from a distance. So can you imagine having this experience with two of the big five? And I can actually just start to see the buffalo coming in. You won't see them just yet. Don't worry, BK, I'll let you know when they come on around. They're just taking their time for the minute. There'll probably be a few more minutes before they come on in. And with all these boisterous bulls acting up in the water, I'm excited to see if there is going to be a bit of pushing and shoving, or maybe even just a standoff between two of the big five this morning. Isn't this awesome though? We're really, really lucky. I don't think I've ever had such good quality elephant sightings like I have here at Pridelands. The only other ones that could really compete with this, but it's on a completely different scale, is up in Zambia on the Zambezi River, where you watch animals like this swimming all day, every day in the massive Zambezi River. It's not quite the Zambezi, but at one point when we had our first lot of rain, it did become Lake Ndlovu. It filled up so much, and I'm sure with the next bout of rain, this dam will fill up even more. That's why we've had to move camp. But here we go. Look, BK, the buffalo have finally arrived. So I know we're watching all of them. Looks like they're about to form a pyramid, but here come the buffalo. So it's the same breeding herd that we've been following for the last few months, and I mentioned this the other morning. And it's actually really nice that we've been spending so much time with them that they're starting to relax around the cars. I'll never forget my first experience. If you look very carefully, you might even see the bushwalk team in the top right-hand corner, which is actually quite cool. They're sitting down nice and low. They're downwind of all the animals. They're sitting behind some nice big trees, and they're just watching safely from a distance, which is so cool. I can't tell you how amazing it is to have encounters like this on foot. And I can tell you right now that the adrenaline will definitely be coursing through all the guests' veins as they sit in anticipation and watch it. And also hiding in the shadows. So very, very well covered. And that's what you want on a bushwalk, is that you don't want the animals to even know that you are there. And Richard has done exactly that this morning. Great guiding. Also some Egyptian geese. I think the Egyptian geese are a bit stuck at the moment. Can you see them, BK? Sorry, just behind those two. The pair of them. They don't quite know what to do. They don't really want to be in the water right now. But they don't really have a choice because the buffalo are going to push them around. So now they just have to sit and bob up and down as the elephants create some serious wake. This is so beautiful to see all these animals interacting with one another. Black widow spider, yes, elephants do more than just spray one another while they're swimming. You've seen they leap on top of one another, or they tusk each other, they charge forward. So they just pretty much have a pool party. It almost reminds me of if you were at a pool party with your friends, or your kids were just in the pool having a swim, and how, you know, they'd get on each other's shoulders and have a bit of, like, you know, I don't even know what you call that maneuver, but like a sort of where you push and shove one another. And that's what it reminds me of when elephants sort of do that in the water, just because they're obviously quite big and so much of their bodies comes out. But they're digging this dam deeper and deeper every single year. I mean, you remember just a few weeks ago, before we did have our first rain, how much water was still in the center of Ndlovu Dam. They've made a huge well, and that's just going to keep getting larger and larger. And the elephants appreciate that, of course. I think they enjoy it when their feet can't touch the bottom. It's been a very, very long time since I saw little elephants learning to swim. And you've never seen the tiny little elephant pedal and kick so fast in your entire life. As they're desperately trying to make it to a shallower area where they could stand. Obviously, these big elephant bulls are in luck. They're big enough that they don't have to worry about their feet not touching the bottom. But the little elephants had their trunks up like snorkels, and they really were using them very, very well. I don't know if you can hear the splashing. Perhaps Jared can let us know. It's gone a bit quiet now. And now we've got elephants, of course, up on the top of the dam wall, pushing and shoving one another, creating such a lovely dust. Typical boys, they just cannot help themselves. And they should filter on through. It's like they're plotting their attack on where to herd the buffalo to. This should be quite interesting. Sneaking around from the rear, pinning those buffalo in. You can see the one elephant that's just moving down off to the left. Beverly, great question. You're asking about if Susan, who is my favorite elephant of all times, has been seen. Yeah, we saw her yesterday, which was quite cool. That was a lot of fun. She was with the breeding herd. They spent quite a bit of time around camp and shading themselves under the big knob thorns and marula trees. And they were the breeding herd that was swimming with all the tiny little ones. I think it was her herd and another breeding herd that were here, because there were, I don't know, BK, how many elephants do you think were here at one point? More than 50? Yeah, I agree. There were more than 50 elephants. So between the two breeding herds and then all the extra elephant bulls that were cohorting around in the water, it was quite a spectacular scene. And then Susan and one of the other younger female elephants, they got the crazies. I know some of you have seen it where dogs and cats just go wild and super hyperactive. Well, those two elephants absolutely lost their minds, and they were trumpeting and running around, and then they caused havoc within the breeding herd itself. And then we left them. But look at this, a little bit more of a serious tussle from what we have been seeing. Again, not anything too dramatic. Just getting rid of all that boisterous energy. Yes, now come and show us what you're going to do to the buffalo, because they're in your wallowing spot. I just love the attitude of buffalo. Well, normally they're just like, we don't care, we're going to stand there like that one, and sort of about to have a complete standoff with those elephants. Especially the old bulls. It's just like we're too exhausted. Nice blacksmith lapwing that just flew across your screen too. It's all happening here today. Goodness, I could sit here for hours and hours, but I do, because I get to live here, which is also very nice. Bulls showing their flexibility, navigating over that log. Whiskey, that's an interesting one. Now, you've asked about why do Asian elephants have more hair on their bodies than African elephants. So I saw Asian elephants while I was in Sri Lanka, and I can't say that they were that much hairier. I mean, they also live in hot, humid conditions. It's more of a jungle type vibe. But gee, Sri Lanka is a very interesting island. It's beautiful. I'm trying to think now while I was looking at them. So when you look at an African elephant, if we get them up close and personal, which we fortunately are able to do quite regularly, you actually see that there is a fair amount of hair on their bodies, but it's just short and it's quite sort of coarse hair, or like almost like bristles. I don't know if any of you sitting at home have ever seen the bangles or bracelets that they make out of elephants' tail hair, and it actually feels like plastic. It doesn't even feel anything like keratin that you and I will know to be keratin. So I wouldn't say that they have that much difference. I mean, yeah, I actually can't say that I even noticed that. I mean, the elephants have hair around in their ears, and even when you look around their mouths, they've got a fair amount of hair, and also all the way down onto their trunks. So I can't say that I noticed that, but maybe I missed it. But we were quite close to the Asian elephants too. I mean, there's some other significant differences. Obviously, ear shape. Ears in Asian elephants are much smaller. Body size is much smaller. They also don't have two little fingertips on the end of their trunks like the African elephants do. And obviously there's a couple of other differences, but I didn't notice the hairiness. I now need to go back and look at all my pictures. Obviously what you see with Asian elephants, you see a lot of pigmentation on their skin in comparison to the African elephants. So that was something that I noticed. And then obviously the obvious lack of tusks on all of them was strange. They had little things that they call tushes, which look like brittle tusks that, you know, if the wind blew too hard, they'd snap off. But this is such a delightful scene. I'm really impressed with the behavior of the elephants today, and especially the boys, that they haven't gone and chased the buffalo around, but just sitting in the full sun. I don't blame them. My attention would also be on sewing and just trying to cool down. Some of the buffalo have almost completely submerged themselves. That was quite cool also to see with the buffalo in the water buffalo in Asia, seen as though we've been talking about Asian animals versus African animals, was that, and I've told you before, is that the water buffalo completely submerged themselves, like for the whole day underwater. It was quite cool. It was almost like they were little submarines.
Should I just do it? Welcome back everyone to Beyond Phinda, and we've caught up with these two cheetah cubs and their mother once again, and they have not moved too far from where we saw them last. While when we left them they had just got up and they were on the move. This was earlier this morning. Since then the wind has picked up drastically, and it's almost, yeah, so I'd say it's pretty close to almost gale force wind now. We can't hear it in the camera because we've positioned our vehicle to shelter us from the wind, but those cheetah they're getting the full force of it, and I think that's why they now have stopped to rest by the termite mound. But she's still very hungry. When she got up, we had a look at her stomach, and she was very slim, so what we thought was a carcass smell where they were resting this morning must have either been a very small carcass or we were mistaken. They're very hungry, these cheetah, and they're looking for food, even though they're uncomfortable and hot. Her head is still up and she's scanning into the thickets all around this open area for possibly a nyala that might come out or an impala that might come out into the open area. There's not any sign of any animals, which is why she's still sitting and lying still. But I think as soon as she does see some, she will look to maybe try to get a bit closer and stalk them. The cubs look very uninterested. They're very sleepy and they're just happy to lie there for now.
When cheetahs are active, it actually brings a nice show, especially when they're out on a hunt. We have a Nile crocodile almost getting out of the water to go and bask. That is his favorite spot. We always find him out on the bank every time we get to this spot. We are actually at the main crossing where lots of zebras and wildebeest have crossed this area multiple times. This is a spot where we've seen lots of action, lots of kills happen, and so many more. I've also seen lions crossing over here. And we have lions that are specialized crossing this river at this very spot, and you can see there's a very big croc there. So some of these lions have really much adopted to crossing this river by using points where they know the crocodiles cannot really swim on, like where you can see the torrents where there's lots of rocks. It's a little bit hard for crocodiles to swim across those rocks and get whatever will be crossing using that point. Over here we have another croc, and sometimes you find that they do what you call fishing, where they will face against the currents, and fish that will be carried downstream will be trapped into their mouth, because sometimes they can go without eating for a long time. And it's reckoned for over a year, these crocs can be able to stay without feeding. You can see there's short grass over there, so it means that lots of grazing animals and the hippos, as they walk out of the water, utilize that spot to feed on the grass. There's lots of hippos there, and you can see they've always given good space, distance between the crocs and the hippo. Young crocs or young hippos can fall prey to crocs, but it depends on how close they can be, because these hippos can really be dangerous to the crocs. That's why you can see they've given a distance. What a nice spot to come and hang around. So as I watch these hippos and the croc, let me take you over to another live location.
And perfectly timed, the hornbill has just gone behind a bush. Let me go forward a bit. We might get lucky. Oh, no, there it is. Look at that. Spectacular. It's just come out and gone behind another one. These two hornbills, or there are two, I'm assuming it's the same two, have been hanging around in the same place here for about, almost 2 weeks now. So they've obviously found plenty to eat in this particular area. And now the sort of mid-morning lull is upon us. And I suspect it'll find some shade and rest. But now it has disappeared. We've been looking fruitlessly for Thandi and her cubs' tracks all morning. And so we'll do our best to continue. In the next half hour, maybe we'll be lucky. But luck has not been with us today. So on we go.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. We were ambling along the river here and happened upon a small breeding herd of elephants, and they seem to have had a lovely mud wallow. You can see how wet this young bull is, moving over towards the rest of the herd and the youngsters. It really has gotten hot since this morning, so I think that's why all of them are trying to get a bit wet in the mud wallow. They seem to be moving over towards the road. Maybe they're going to cross next to us. There you can see them in the distance coming out of those guarri thickets. Have a look out for those calves. So that female in the front is the matriarch of the small herd. She's the lead female. And the elephants that are following her, the younger ones, are very possibly all her calves of different ages. But we do also know that maybe these are sisters and their youngsters together. Look at the little one spreading its ears. I think it's very important for them, especially on a day like today, to try not to use too much energy. So they're moving slowly. They're trying to stick to the patches that have more shade. And especially now, having come over to this mud wallow, you can actually see it here behind me. You can actually see how all of the elephants have been in here. You can see where they've been wallowing in the mud. Some big patches that are dented inwards from their big feet. And it's actually incredibly special for us to see even just a small herd of elephants, because they are such incredible creatures, gentle giants. And I absolutely love them, especially on a hot day like today, when you get to actually see them mud wallowing or nice and wet, where they've got that very dark mud all over them, and then that drier patches. and it soaks into all of those little wrinkles on the sides of their skin. You can see there's not very much water left here. We definitely need some more rain. Oh wow, a little canary has just come over to the waterhole. So I think what we're going to do is we'll leave this little lemon-breasted canary and move on down the river, see if we can find any signs of a leopard for the morning, joining James in the search.
Okay. Alright, something has just roused this young cheetah, and he's felt the urge to just go and give his mother a little bit of a cuddle and nuzzle on her forehead. And it's amazing to see the tight bond between these cheetah now. They've been with their mother for about a year, 11 months, and the bond between them becomes so tight after such a long time because they rely on each other so heavily. While they relied on her in the beginning to look after them and provide them from food, now she can even start to rely on them to keep their eye out for predators. They are old enough to be streetwise enough to also act as sort of lookouts for danger. And now something's caught their eye. Something has definitely caught their eye, and they are running towards to investigate. And I wonder what it is. Mom doesn't seem all that phased, so I don't think it's a potential prey item. I think it's something else. It's a tortoise. They have seen this this tortoise. I'm just going to reposition. And now their curiosity has kicked in. Look at this. That tortoise is on the rock. And now he's gone over to sniff it. This is amazing. And they're not quite sure what it is. I wonder if they've maybe never seen a tortoise before in the wild. And now they've come to investigate. And the tortoise, look, he's pulled all of his limbs and his head inside of his shell. And he's just trying to protect himself. Wait for these cheetahs to lose interest, and then he'll go about his business again. It is very, very windy now. It's picked up a hell of a lot. But it's amazing how these two little cheetah, I mean, that tortoise was quite a distance away from them, and it was moving very slowly, and it looks so camouflaged, almost like all the rest of these rocks in this area. And their eyes are so sharp, they picked up that movement even whilst they were sleeping and resting. This is quite amazing. This is the second time I've seen cheetah play with a tortoise like this, but never such a big one. This is a really old leopard tortoise. We're going to stay with these cheetah for a little bit longer, see what they get up to. We're going to send you off to another live location.
Doesn't sound like a very good day to be a tortoise. Now, we just saw two collared pratincollas. Very exciting. They're not common birds. Intra-African migrants. We saw the male and the female, but sadly they flew off. So we have to leave this sighting, and the dogs have gone flat. Now, James Richard, thank you so much. You said you're not sure that this is a Pungwe pack. Honestly, I'm not sure either. To be honest, I don't see any collared adult. And it has been said on the radio that one of the adults does have a piece of their lip missing. I think that's what's led people to think it is the Pungwe pack. So Niels is going to give you a very good view of all the ones that are standing for ID purposes, but I'm really not sure what pack we have here. The Pungwe pack have been spoiling us lately. We used to see the Hamilton pack quite a bit. They're a very, very large pack. And We also used to spend some time with the Investic breakaway pack. So I'm really not sure. The Pungwe pack is very easy to identify due to the fact that they do have a lot of puppies in tow. One of the alphas is collared, and the female does have a little bit of her lip missing. But the bellies are full. A lot of them have got blood on their face, bulging tummies, which means that they have fed. I don't know what happened there. Wow, and just like that, they're alert. They do sleep all night. So during the day, it's normally a sort of resting and digesting phase. It's far too hot to be mobile at around midday. And they use a lot of energy to hunt. It takes extreme amount of effort, and they need to recuperate that, and that is what resting during the day is all about. Now, they boast about an 80% success rate, which is incredible. Of all of the carnivores we get here, they have the highest success rate. Maybe across Africa, the entire continent, wild dogs' hunting strategy is so incredible. I mean, lions are said to be around 30%. And leopards for the Kruger only comes in at around 16%. But for dogs, it's remarkably high. And they hunt every day because they have to, twice a day. Sunrise and sunset. And that's because they require a lot more meat. Something's alerting them. I'm not sure why they're a little bit nervous. But yes, they require a lot more meat relative to their size than lions do, and that's exactly why they feed every day. So we are going to leave these dogs, and if any of you do confirm an ID, please let me know.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. We are having an incredibly lucky morning. We've just found a flock of 4 southern ground hornbills in amongst a herd of impala. And those 2 that are running, the one on the left, managed to make a kill. And so everyone's trying to chase it and get it away. And they're just walking along in this open clearing looking for frogs, insects, snakes, even tortoises. So similarly to the cheetah that had the tortoise earlier, these southern ground hornbills are actually capable of breaking the shell of a tortoise, which is incredibly hard to do. But this is such an endangered bird, and it's actually the first time I've seen southern ground hornbills on Ngala since I've been back. So this looks like quite an adult flock. All 4 of them have that beautiful red around their throat and eyes, and normally that only starts to show completely red anywhere from 4 years old. So this seems to be 4 adult birds. Before that, when they're younger, it starts off as like a pale brown grey colour, then it goes over to yellow after about a year, and then a bit orange 2 years or so, and then only changing over to red in speckles from about 3 years onwards, and then fully red from 4 years old. What's interesting about them is they're quite different to other birds in that the youngsters from previous roosts or from previous breeding seasons will actually help them raise new chicks. So this could actually be an adult pair with 2 of their older children. What's also fascinating is they often lay 3 eggs. But what happens is, as soon as one has hatched, the other two actually get pushed out of the nest, and so the conservation projects are often aimed at rescuing 2 of the 3 eggs before they get pushed out. We're going to stay here with them and watch them looking for some food this morning.
We managed. We got it. This is a collared prating call. Now, I've not managed to ever get one on camera before. And there's 2. So one is said to be male, one is said to be female. They're monogamous. And as I mentioned earlier, they're generally uncommon. But they're a breeding intra-African migrant. And intra means within Africa. So they don't leave the continent, but they will move to breed. So they don't come from Europe or anywhere outside of Africa, but normally they'll come from sort of above the equator to below the equator in order to breed in summer, because there's plentiful amounts of food around. Insects. Delicious insects. And they're quite unique, as they're said to be crepuscular feeders, and what that means is that their peak activity time for feeding is said to be sunrise and sunset, just like the dogs. And they're also known to be nocturnal on full moon nights. So when it's full moon and there's a lot of ambient light, not a cloud in the sky, you'll find these birds awake and feeding on the sort of more nocturnal insects, such as moths. Isn't it beautiful? And of course, if you're unsure of how to identify it, you can see that really distinct black collar from under the eye, right around, almost like it's wearing a napkin around its neck. Like what I do sometimes, because I have a habit of spilling all my food all over my clothes. Like it's got a serviette tucked into its collar, and that's a really easy way to identify it. And when it opens its wings, although we can't actually see this right now, it's got a sort of, the coverts on the inner wing, or maybe the underside of the wing, is bright red. That's another key feature if you see them in flight. Oh, I'm so happy we managed to get it on camera. So in the non-breeding plumage, that black collar is not present. So this is how we know this got its breeding plumage on, just like the weavers. They attain a different plumage when they're ready to breed. And they've obviously arrived here in time for summer. Fabulous. I'm overjoyed we managed to get it for you. So we are really bumbling back home now.
I'm still with the elephants. I've tried to drive ahead of them and see if they're going to come towards me, and sure enough, one herd has gone past. Sorry, I think I raised my voice too much and they stopped a little bit, but it looks like they have no worry with that. So one herd has gone past. This is a second herd. This is a rather an unusual, much larger, breeding herd than what we are used to. It is more than 10, 12. This is about maybe 18 or so. I'm not complaining, but it's rather a larger breeding herd. And they were all together, about maybe 6 small breeding herds joined together. It's been a long time since I saw this many together, more than 150, 200, but it was very nice. Now you can tell they're scattered slightly. That is the first herd, and then we have another one right there coming, and then we have another one to the left. So there's so many. There's that one, and then there's that one, and also, there's so many here, and all of them are headed towards the river. For some reason, it has become a sort of a pattern this time of the year, where they're leaving the plains and heading towards the forest and into the river. I don't know if they might cross to go to the other side, or they're going there for a much-needed drink. They need some fresh water, and then maybe a little bit of play, then come out and back to the plains again in the evening when it's cooler. Definitely, I can tell that this small herd here has realized that I'm here. I've been waiting for them, and I stopped a little bit. Sometimes they need a little bit of time to judge exactly what's happening, if it's safe, and with their very developed, brain, they are able to decide if it's safe or not. But it is very safe. I can assure them that. Remember, this life, it's coming from the Masai Mara, and it's just beautiful to see a small herd of elephants happy like this out in the plains heading towards the river. Lots of about 2.5 to 5 year old ones, the ones with the sharp pointed tusks. This herd is not really blessed with very long tusks, and it differs from one family to the other. Some families have got very thick ones and very long, and so it's not always origami. How common is the tuskless gene of elephants? It's not common. It's not common at all. And here in the Mara, I think I know of about 2 herds. Majority of them don't have tusks, but few have. But fully tuskless tusks, you'd go to where they were really, really threatened, they were really poached, they were really hunted. There, they learned that, because they're very smart, they learned that, tusks were the cause for them to be hunted down almost to extinction. And so they stopped growing the tusks. So they're not very common. In the Mara, we have them, but not very common. I would take you to, parks in eastern Kenya, where you'd find the Savo. You might find a few herds that are fully tuskless. Maybe Zulus, you might find them in Tanzania. You find a few that are very tuskless, but they are there, not very common. But I'm sure maybe one of my other guides will be able to tell you exactly where you can find fully tuskless elephants. Look at this site. This is part of this, some things that you see on postcards, on documentaries. They're heading right towards me. I don't know what's going to be their reaction, but this is superb, guys. All of them looks like they have some very tiny tusks. Look at that. The longest one, I would say, is the one to the left, second left. She's got some long ones. And looks like they're really related. Look at the one to the left and then the one in front. The tusks are almost similar, only that the one to the left has got a very long right hind one, and this one has got a very long left hand side one. They're coming right past us shortly. This is superb. You can tell they have wallowed slightly in mud, and it is common and it is needed for their skin to remain clean from pests and biting insects. They need that extra layer to smother and also reduce the sun glare. Remember that elephants have got very, very poor eyesight, but their sense of smell is compared to none. They say actually it can compete with the dogs. Sense of smell, I would say it will rank second from dog. They have a very good sense of smell. Yeah, looks like they have decided to pretend that they were not crossing and just have a nibble of some grass. That is very, very coarse grass there, and you can tell they're using their feet to help uproot it. Yeah, I'll let you enjoy this beautiful sight as we take you to the next, live location.
Those elephants will always excite me every day, and I like when they get closer to the vehicle. Now, a crocodile is out, and I'm assuming that is a male because he is always on that spot. Most of the time you find that Nile crocodile are social. They share the basking spots and large food sources, and sometimes they have a very strict hierarchy where it's determined by their sizes. All male are on the top of the hierarchy, and they actually have the access to food and the best basking spots rather. So that spot is normally used by that croc. We always find him. Look at the other one, he's just still in the water. So the reason why I'm assuming it's a male is because sometimes we find crocodiles can be hard to sex or to tell which is a male or a female, because they have what we call sexual monomorphic. Sexes look alike, and you find that to actually be able to sex crocodile, we'll have to maybe get too close and get to see how big that is and the dominance of how they behave. But unless one handles a crocodile to be able to check on the hemipenal or the hemiclitory, which is always the best way to identify. But that is always identified on crocodile farms. So this crocodile always utilizes this spot. So I'm assuming he's the dominant male around here, because I've seen other crocs coming here and then leaving him to that spot. Although they're social, they can share a basking spot, but dominant or because of hierarchy, those big males get the best spot that they want. Seems like a nice spot for him, so he can spend the entire day here. So I'm going to link you over to another live location.
Well, I'm lost with choice on who to present and make famous this morning, so I have decided to move again to a different herd that is over here. We're going to be sharing that with you. It's another one of around 100 or so, and they're right in front of me, spread out everywhere. Look at that. It's just superb to see this many. Of course, I'm not ignoring the lone toppy who's amongst them. I think he's very safe, and you can tell. Actually, there are two. They're not worrying about looking around, because with all these elephants, nobody would dare come close. Yes, definitely there is something in mind with all these elephants coming down towards the river, and these are or could be closely related herds of old, females. Remember, they live a very long time, and within that time, a matriarch can become a matriarch at a very early age, maybe of around 40 onwards. Some of them get to become matriarchs very much older, but once a herd becomes too big, they will split and form smaller herds. And also, because they're very smart, elephants will know where to be, where it's safe for different things. And also, females that are in season would come to an area like this because there is plenty to eat. And also, females come to give birth around a place like this, because also they need that strong food, plenty of grass and different grasses, also browse. And so it's perfect. Just listen. You might not hear them, and this is what still amazes me about elephants. They're so big, yet you can't hear very much. Yes, this female has decided to add a bit of layer to her beautiful skin and make it even much beautiful. Well, it's been a beautiful morning having you on this live broadcast from different locations. All I can say is goodbye and see you this afternoon. Bye-bye.